Hey, it's Adam here, and you're watching The Culture Hack, where we're talking about how to create engaged workspaces that unlock the potential of your teams and drive your business forward in ways you've never seen. So stay tuned. Hello, and welcome to The Culture Hack. Today is super interesting. I have with me Kim White. She is an IO psychologist with Rali Solutions, and I'm super excited to learn new stuff about psychology today. So Kim, thanks so much. Welcome.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for having me. My pleasure.
So let's get into it. First, tell us a little bit about Rali Solutions and about IO psychology and how that all fits in there.
Sure. So Rali is an online change experience platform, a little distinguished from what you might know as a learning management system, in that we really follow this particular framework that was created by our founder, Larry Moll, which is the idea of we learn a little something, then we go do a little something to apply what we learned, and then we share something so that we inspire others and we learn together as a community, because studies have shown that people who learn together learn more deeply and more effectively. So our platform is really built around that. We don't create our own content, but we work with people who are experts in different fields like inclusion, emotional intelligence, high-performing teams, and we help them get their content onto our platform. And then we just get little groups of people going through that learning and experiencing a shift together, which can be really powerful. And along the way, we also measure that change. So whatever change they're looking for, we're there kind of all the way through that learning process, the measuring, and then offering them kind of the next learning process. So we really think of ourselves as really partnering with companies throughout their learning journey, as their company tries to change in whatever way they are trying to change. And there's lots of different angles coming in, but everybody is fortunately working on something, and we are hopefully their platform of choice to get to that goal.
Very, very cool. I love the idea of you learn something, then you share something, and learning together. That's really neat.
Oh yeah, the application is really when things click. You can learn something, and we all know like the studies around how quickly you can forget something. So by learning it and then actually doing it, and sometimes the activities are you have to have a conversation with somebody. So you're actually doing something with someone else, which makes it even more impactful.
So tell me a little bit about IO psychology.
Sure.
What is IO psychology?
Yeah, it's a mystery to many people. It's a very broad field, but basically IO psychology is, I just think of it as like a psychologist for the workplace. So often when people ask me what I do, I just say I'm a business psychologist. So that means that, I'm in the organization, I'm helping to do everything from build valid assessments, so performance assessments or personality assessments, cognitive assessments, all the way to studying and understanding culture change and motivation, retention. So IO psychologists do many things in organizations. It's a bit like an MBA, in that it tends to be an add-on to whatever career path somebody was already on. So there are people who are employed as IO psychologists, and that's sort of what they do all day. But many of us sort of do something. For many years, I was a product manager, for example. So I was a product manager and an IO psychologist. And I brought my understanding of learning and learning behavior and motivation into building product. So often IO psychologists are sort of pulling that, that understanding of the mind and behavior, and we're attaching it to whatever other job we do. So I think of it as we're sort of superpowered in a way.
I love it. You're kind of, how do we get humans to do what we're trying to do, right?
Right. Collectively. And ultimately, what they want to do. So we're trying to navigate that, where do they want to go? And in particular, a strong interest of mine is really helping individuals be happier at work. We all spend a lot of time, now that we're working from home and we have these little devices that we can work on anywhere, it seems like we are always working in a way. And my sort of personal mission is just to help people have a better experience. So if we've got to be working more, let's be thrilled with what we're doing. Let's feel really energized by it instead of really drained. So employee happiness is sort of what I would tag myself with as my personal mission, is employees having a better experience at work.
I love that. That's amazing. And you do that through helping them learn, because happy people are learning new things, and
That's right.
They're dynamic, right?
It's a lot about, so many people now bring to the workplace the sense of, I want to develop, I want to grow. I don't want to just sit and do one job for 25 years. I want to feel I'm progressing, which is wonderful. I mean, that's a terrific shift in workplace culture. So as a result, people have this need, and organizations are looking for ways of, well, how can we do that? Because that's a big job. And we already have this other whole thing we do as a business. So how do we also make sure that people are learning and growing along the way? And definitely that sense of, I just learned something at work that I never would have learned on my own elsewhere, fulfills that sense of, I'm getting somewhere, that this place I show up every day is more than just a paycheck.
And we were talking just before the call about, you had a story about a company that's having what they thought turnover issues was the symptom, but really it was a learning problem.
Right.
I'd love for you to share more about that story.
Yeah, sure. So, and I have many of those through the years. It's an example of what IO psychologists do, which is we really listen, and we're trained on how to get to the root cause of something. So generally when we talk to a company like this one I was working with, where they had this sort of long list of, employees aren't doing this and they aren't doing that. And they're not being firm with customers on the phone, and they're not doing what their managers are asking them to do. And they were seeing that as, well, that's the problem to be fixed. So I listened to that and kind of pull through, all of my toolkit in my head and think, okay, well, what is that really? That is very likely an accountability problem. And that's a matter of managers really being able to articulate, these are the expectations, and then knowing what to do when expectations are met and when expectations are not met. So, and from the employee perspective, being able to articulate, well, I heard what you asked me to do, but I'm having trouble completing that. So I need help, or I need more information, or I don't quite understand what you're asking me to do. So that accountability is really about those good conversations and that relationship between those two people, which is far more complex of an issue than if people aren't doing what they're supposed to do. So then, we sort of listen for that, and we say, okay, we're going to diagnose this as an accountability issue. Now, what kind of learning needs to happen on both sides? So what do the managers need to learn? What do the employees need to learn, so that we can get them both into this place they need to be? So it's really, it's almost like the equivalent in medicine would be, giving you an aspirin for your headache versus digging into, well, why are you getting headaches? Is there something that we can change that will make those headaches go away? So it's just digging a little deeper and getting into, which I find really fun, because it's a little bit like being a detective. I get to ask some questions, and well, tell me more about that, and what happens, if they say this, or are they doing that? And I get to ask questions and really kind of reveal that underlying issue. Then the chances of really solving that problem for the organization just go up exponentially, because we're trying to solve the wrong problem. It's not going to work. Then we're not going to see the culture change that they're really looking for.
Interesting. I like that. So even in an accountability issue, which, the symptom is the work is not getting done, or communicated,
or
or whatever, And the idea is that, like, all right, well, what do we both have to learn on both sides in order to communicate better or to work together better or whatever, right?
Mm-hmm. And ideally, if we're learning that together, then there's some, some magic happens there as well. Is we're learning both sides of like, now I can see that from my boss's perspective, or now I can see that from my direct report's perspective. And we start to learn together, which then becomes this really powerful experience for everyone.
So what's one thing, if there's an organization out there that loves this idea of learning and of Rali, that the solution that you have, like what's one thing that they can start to do to try and, drive this culture of learning? Is there a place they can start?
Oh, that's a good question. My learning geek friends and I talk about this all the time. Is what can we do to encourage organizations to become, a culture of learning? And I think the answer is really often what it is for everything else in an organization, which is it starts at the top. So if you have leadership that really values and emphasizes learning, that demonstrates learning. So for example, a leadership team that gets outside coaching, a leadership team that takes time to do learning programs themselves, whether it's in person or in line, but are they demonstrating personal investment in learning and improving and growing? And I think when people are in an organization and they see that, they hear the leadership team is going through this sort of program, it sets a tone, and when especially if there's vulnerability, where the leadership team can express to the rest of the organization, this is what we want to work on, and this is the commitment as a leadership team that we are taking, and this is the commitment that we're asking you to take. Then it's more of a we're all in this together versus, here's some harassment training you have to take. So
right.
Maybe in some ways, one of my personal beefs is just the word training. If you need to learn how to change the tire on your bicycle, we can train you to do that. But to be, a better contributor in the workplace, that's more about learning than it is about training, training with the little quotes. So I think just opening up to this idea of we all need to be learning and learning as we go throughout our careers. We are learning as human beings. We are learning beings. We're always, whether it's the new phone that's come out or new features on our car, we are hardwired to learn. We really can't help it. We tend to think of the workplace, though, as being something that's somehow separate, and it's really not. We are always learning at work. So this is just a matter of being really intentional about it. So for leadership teams, I would say, try to get rid of the word training, embrace the word learning, be open to learning and being a model of learning behaviors and being vulnerable. That last project we all worked on, that didn't go so well. We learned a lot. We're grateful for that learning, and just being a little less judgmental around the idea of failure, not even referring to something as a failure, but really focusing on being retrospective. Well, what happened there? What did we learn from that? What can we do differently in the future? And really embracing that we're all in it together, and it's learning, whether it's at the leadership level or it's onboarding. So, as a new employee, the first learning you do is onboarding. I got to learn everybody's names. I have to learn what I'm supposed to do and where to go. And maybe I have to learn Zoom or have to learn Teams. We learn a lot in the first part of joining a company. And just keeping that going and having that spirit of, we're learning and we're grateful for the lessons.
So it starts and ends with learning, right? You heard it here first.
Oh, yes. Yes.
Well, thank you so much, Kim, for your wisdom and your
pleasure.
insights. I think there are some great gems in there for us to think about. So really appreciate your time, and thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Hey, thanks for watching The Culture Hack. Do you want to chat culture and engagement? Give us a call and come on the show.